another episode of Electrical Theology, Esoteric Life Coaching. I'm your host, Charles. This is a channel about learning how to establish, connect, communicate, and interpret intuitive information or any information coming in from specifically people around us and from those outside of this world and other realms and dimensions. And if you watch a lot of my videos, I've been doing this for about 45 years plus. I've been doing it since a young age and studying it my whole life about the esoteric. The esoteric is just understanding the internal mechanisms of the universe and the internal workings of you within. And having the ability to communicate what is within and bring it externally to people around you and have an open-hearted, undefended, unfolding moment, if you will. All right. Well, today what we're doing is, if you've watched a lot of my videos, if this is your first time here, thanks for joining me. Like I said, I've been doing this stuff for a while. And one of the fun things we always do is tarot class. We used to have a create your own tarot class I taught for a long time, for a few decades. And it was, we made up our own tarot decks. We had questions that we asked and then people wrote them out and then they were able to create their own decks, which was fun. And what I've done over the years is collect a lot of decks. I like the tarot. Now, the tarot just comes from the Torah, right? The Jewish tradition, the Kabbalistic tradition. It was sort of the inner circle of the Jewish tradition. It's still around, but not as much as the mainstream Judaism, or Yahudiism, however you want to pronounce it. But basically what tarot is, it is just ink and paper, right? Let's just take the mysticism out of it. This is just ink and paper, right? And we're going to be unboxing a deck today because I want to take those who have never done tarot on a very beginning class, right? I want to take you from the box that you buy, how do you buy it, right? How it speaks to you. We'll get into all that stuff, but the main thing is that when you understand and communicate with those outside of you, and in one sense, you're using the internal mechanisms of your transmitter and receiver through your cells, your DNA, the crystalline structures within you, right? Your third eye, your pituitary hypothalamus, all that good stuff, is that these are your components that create the instrument that creates the fire in the middle, or the pyramidal energy, right, inside of you. And once that pyramidal energy, it conducts electricity. It produces electricity. And that electricity then goes up like an array antenna on your car. The little antenna used to come up. For those who are old enough to remember, the little antennas used to come up on the car. It's a mast. And a mast is just an antenna. And so what we're doing by creating and owning our own stuff, we basically connect with our inner ship. Right, so we can have an inner relationship with ourselves, our masculine and our feminine, and having those two consummate within us and become that one source. And once we become that one source of that one verse, we then have a strong amplitude of electricity that then can hop on the cosmic airwaves and then be able to communicate with other beings, be them here on Earth or outside of Earth, or in this dimension. And again, dimensions, di, mens, ions. It's di meaning two, mens, the generic categorization of all humanoids in this galaxy, and then ions, which is just energy. So it's two mens energies. And so the energy is about exchanging. And to help us hone in, because we have so many thoughts, we have so many distractions, we have our daily debts, relationships, bills, wars, floods, all this stuff. We have all these distractions, right? And how do we hone in on a signal and a single signal to be able to get a good connection and be able to communicate on a equal broadcast? Right, or a singular broadcast, meaning much like your radio in your car, when you want to hear a radio station, you keep tuning it and fine-tuning it until you get that station when it's the clearest. Now, if you're not totally focused in and you're not taking responsibility for those thoughts, actions, and emotions that you create, then your signal is going to be weak. You don't have much amplitude. And so your frequency modulation is just going to be low. So you'll be able to communicate with the lower realms of those outside of the human range. But the more you do your work, your inner work, again, taking responsibility for your thoughts, actions, and emotions, and when you do that, you're able to hone in a little more, and then you amplify your signal. Then you can communicate with other beings and their ships, be it spaceships that are out there, right? Unidentified flying objects, or UAAs, or unidentified aerial objects. They got so many acronyms for them now I can't follow them all. And then you start getting into the higher realms of what people will call archangels, but it's just an arcing. Your signal is arcing at a steeper rate, if you will, so you can tap into frequencies that are more condensed, right? Red energy is very slow. Violet energy is very fast. It's a wavelength within a given spectrum of time. Why is this important? It's because the more you're able to clear your frequency, clear your mind, and communicate, then you're able to tap into the higher frequencies. Right? You can download a ton of libraries of information within seconds. Right? And then part of helping people hone in, if it's just a person to person that I'm reading in front of me, or when I'm doing a broad audience, is that I'm able then to hone in on each and every person in that audience or that person right in front of me. Now, how am I able to do that? Well, practice is one. Two is I'm not there for me in that reading, right? All I'm doing is opening up, and if anyone wants to communicate with me and convey what they want and for what purpose, that's up to them. If it's coaching, if it's figuring out something about their health, wealth, or love, then I'm going to pick up when I'm hearing or feeling or smelling or touching or tasting any of these senses. And then I'm going to listen deeply to what this person's saying. And then I'm going to rephrase it back to them and make sure that this is what I heard. So not only I'm hearing, but then I want to make sure that I'm validating what they said. I'm not necessarily at the start changing what it is they said, but as we get deeper into it, because their words are one thing, but the feeling, the amplitude behind it, right? They may say, oh, everything's okay, but their words are dropping off and sad. Now, they're not really okay, right? Now, we can get into a conversation. That's what this is about. Tarot is about conversing. Con meaning with, and verse. Con means with verse. I'm getting with their verse or their frequency. All the same thing. So all we're doing is honing in, and tarot lets us help focus in by looking at the cards, the pictures, the pretty painting, the artist's artwork, right? When we can get that person to look at that, it frees their mind up in that second. We're able then to tap into, with their permission, just tap into that information and see how they have put it in order. And then help them reorder, right, the disorder. Making sense? So with the tarot, it's a great place to start for people to practice honing in on their signal so they can tap into the higher realms to get more information for whatever reason. That's up to them. Right? I tap into the higher realms and all the realms through red, through violet. We'll keep it simple, the 7 main frequencies. Now there's thousands of more, but in the starting we just want to keep with red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet frequencies. Right? On the radio spectrum, on the visible light spectrum, it's the rainbow colors. Right? That's when you see a rainbow, it has all those colors in there. Some colors are thicker, some are thin. It just depends on what's being distributed. And so when a person comes to me, they are distributing their information, the distribution, right? Distributing ions, or their energy. And so what I want them to do is hone in, focus in, going from a broad to a specific, right? What it is and why they're here, and what is it they want to get out of this session, right? So when you do tarot reading and a person comes to you, right, we can ask them, what is your objective here today? What do you want to go home with? What do you want to know more about? Right? And some people will just come and say, oh, I just want a general reading, see what's going on. Great, just give me a general reading, what you say, what the cards are saying, right? Or what you're intuiting. The cards, again, are just ink and paper, right? It's a bunch of symbols. But we can tap into our intuition as well by looking at the cards. And the cards will tell us the story, right? We'll see things on the cards that may or may not be there. Or we're trying to think of something to communicate in the words that will vibrate best with the client in front of us because we're in touch with that vibration, right? If a person in front of me is not a doctor, then I'm not going to speak doctor speak, or lawyer speak, or nurse speak, or Christian speak, or Buddhist speak, right? If that's not who's in front of me. If they are, then I can use that language. Does it make sense? Because I can adapt to that language because I can hear how they hear. Make sense? So the tarot, we're going to just get in from the very beginning here, and I'm going to just unbox this box for the first time. Right, the plastic wrap's still on it. And this is the tarot decoratif. I'm hacking that up because I'm not French. It is from a French artist. It's actually the same artist that created this deck that I also use. Right, because I like the artwork. Right, and so when you go shopping for a deck of tarot, and again, I'm not sponsored by this person or anything. Normally decks call to me, or I love the artwork. I love people's art. And I have to have it, and the feel of the card has to be right for me. Right? So if someone has demo decks, feel the card, look at the card, right? Because if not, then you're not going to use it. Because it's just like going out or to a job. You want to have the best clothes, the best shoes for the day. Right? So when you're doing your craft, you want to have the best of what it is you want. And the best is whatever resonates with you. Because if we're resonating, then we're able to amplify and resonate, and that client can then pick up on our frequency and then sort of temporarily amp them up so they are open and establishing rapport. A rapport is just re-import. Right? We talked about, if you watched my video yesterday, it was about reporting, right? Re-import. So I'm a reporter from Earth, and then I transmit that what I'm observing, and plus what's recorded in my DNA, and then I transmit that to other realms or hierarchies. And again, hierarchy is higher arc. It's a order of energy, right? Much like electricity. I can have 9 volt, 110, 220, 440, 880, and so on and so forth. There's a hierarchy, and each one of those are used for different maintenance and powering up our universe. And so you can communicate with these beings, principalities, angels, elementals. There's tons of names, and I'm not going to get locked into the names, but what I want to do is just, if you're interested in tarot, we're just going to get familiar with tarot, and this is just a basic intro class, and then this I'll give and help you understand it and what to expect from this box, and then do a basic practice reading and go over some of the basic fundamentals of tarot. All right, so let's just break into the box. So like I said, when I go to a store, or I'm online looking for a deck, and a lot of times people just gift me decks, right? They like what I do, and they're like, hey, I thought you'd like this deck. Fingernails not sharp enough. And they said, hey, I thought you'd like this deck, and they give it to me. And I'm like, well, I appreciate that. Some of them I use, some of them I don't, but I appreciate the gift, right? Let's just put that off to the side. Now, normally when you get a deck, be it a bigger deck, an oracle deck, now this is going to be based off of the basic Rider-Waite deck. And if you don't know what that is, I would start with a basic deck just to get familiar with it, or look it up online. There's plenty of stuff there. But most boxes will come with a book. Right? So if you're like, well, I can't get cards, I don't know what they mean. Well, these books will come through, and they are, let's see, they will have every picture and every explanation. They'll have spreads that you can do, right? And so it'll explain everything. So the books that come with it are very good for the most part. Right? Now there's the care and maintenance of the cards. The care and maintenance of cards are just like anything else, right? You can keep them in the box they came in. You can put them on a shelf, whatever that is for you. Some people get very sacred about taking care of cards, but again, it's ink and paper, right? And you can put crystals on them. You can cover them up every night. You can put them under the moon and get the negative energy out. Everyone's got their version. And yeah, I sound a little sarcastic about that, but that's my own bias. Don't let my bias sway you of what you do with the cards, because the cards for me are just helping people focus. Right? It's a crystal ball. It's a candle flame. Right? When you do meditation, right, you light a candle and Stare into the flame, right? Get in touch with the flame. Because it's helping people focus and concentrate. So when it comes to the care and maintenance of the cards, and this is the back side of them, and that's the front side, starting with the Fool. So I like the artwork. And most of these, believe it or not, see where it says Lamat or Lamat? I'm not sure, again, it's French. And this does have the English and the French translation because the artist is French. And so they're beautiful cards. The artwork's amazing. Right, they're bright colors. Okay. So I have to have, the cards have to have a certain feel for me and a certain artwork. So if I don't enjoy looking at it, if I don't like the art, then I'm not going to be able to focus myself. I know, a little ADD or whatever you want to call it. But anyway, so when you get the box, and again, caring for the cards is like caring for anything else in your house, right? You just don't want it laying around, tearing up and getting all crimped up, right? So you want to take care of it. It's like any occupation. You want to take care of your computers, your desk, whatever this may be, you want to take care of it. So take care of these, right? Because if you're sort of disrespecting your craft, and with, again, craft just has the word arc in it, right? An anagram of arc in it. Pretty much everything I teach has arc or ion, right? You see arcing energy. Ion is energy. So all we're trying to do is arc, put in order, distribute, and being able to converse, right? And bring into the universal message, if that makes sense. So what I would recommend is just going through your book, right? Going through the first page, don't skip around, right? Open up, see who the artists are, right? Go through the table of contents. When was this published, right? Anytime you read a book, go from start to finish. I know some people just want to go in, but definitely start with the preface. Because you never know what bit of information, because if you're seeking to do this as a hobby or as a lifestyle or a career, the way you go into something is exactly who you'll be when you're doing it. Which means if you just skip around here, then you're just going to be a skip around reader, and that may confuse, your querent. The querent is a person asking the question. Well, for me, they are the questers, right? Or the request, because they're on a quest, a journey, if you will. They're on a quest. And their re means again. It's a prefix. Re means again. And so they are, again, questing information. And information is informed ions, energy that's in a certain form. So their energy, they put in a certain form, and it's not working for them anymore. So they want to reorder. And so what they do is then they request, right? Or quest for more ions. That making sense, right? So again, this is esoteric tarot. I teach it differently than most traditional ways. I look at it from the essence, which is just all electricity. And yes, there's something beyond just the electricity, but that's not what this class is about, or this thing is. So what this book will give you is all the characters, the order they come in, cups, coins. Every deck is different. Now some decks you'll have hearts, or you'll have coins, right? The basic elements: fire, water, earth, and air. So that's going to be not in any certain order, but you'll have wands, swords, cups, and coins, or diamonds, or pentacles, right? Those last three are the same thing, and each one of these have equivalents in different decks, but the basic four are pentacles, wands, swords, and cups, right? And so those are the four basic elements: fire, water, earth, and air. Swords are air for the most part. Coins are dirt or earth, or stones. You'll hear the pentacles called that as well. And then you have... And so this will go through and describe each and every character in detail. Right? Now there's two types of readers. Again, I'm being just basic here, a 1 and 0 type thing, a binary. Is that you have people who memorize each character and then read according to that character. Right? And they'll use their intuition, or they'll use their memory on that. And these are what I call paperback psychics. Neither good nor bad. It's just they will appeal to a certain audience. And then you have those who will use just the pictures, They don't want to, their brain doesn't memorize order. They won't memorize the 21 major arcana, because a deck like this will come with a major arcana, 21, 22 counting the Fool, and then the rest, depending on the deck itself, will have four suits, and again your pentacles, wands, swords, and hearts or cups, chalices, whatever you want to call that. Most people won't memorize all those cards. Right? It's about 74 cards depending on the deck, but they won't memorize, or their brain just doesn't have the capacity to memorize. So what they do is they look at the pictures. They're very pictorial. Right? They'll look at the pictures and get all the information off the artwork of the card itself. All right? So you have sort of the left brain and right brain. Those that remember, and those just strictly go off intuition. But there is a third one now. The third one uses both the right and the left brain, the heart and the mind, and bring in intuition, because that then creates a perfect triangle. Right? You have the transmitter, the receiver, and you, the neutral. Because when you do readings, we have to stay neutral, right? Unbiased as best as we can. So when you're reading this book, I recommend going through each and every page and look at the card, feel the card, right? Get a glimpse of what that card is, and study them. Right? You don't have to memorize them, because if you love doing this, the order will just come in. And I have classes that are on my site that you can click on that will break down the basic origin or the basic study of the cards themselves. And so I will go through the major, and I break it down in sevens, because that makes it a little more easy to comprehend. But for the most part, read the book, go through it, take each card with it, right? And then that will then, you can start practicing basic reads. We'll get into different spreads here in a minute. But go through the book. The book has everything in it, details it. Now, when you get the cards, they're all going to be in order, right? And most cards will be numbered. Like the Fool is 0. And then the 1, right? The Magician. The High Priestess. Again, this is all in French, or at least the cards here are, but La Papiste. La Impératrice. Again, I'm hacking French up. Sorry, French people. And so these will all be in the order of which they are in the book, right? Now, once you finally go through all these cards, and again, your major arcana is going to come up first, right? Let's go, and they will go into the world card. And so the last one, Le Monde. I know Monde means world in most Latin-based languages. And so that's the last card of the major arcana. Right? You say arcana, arcana, and again, for me, I don't get locked into the traditional people who get overly sacred about cutting the cards, doing this. When you do a spread, do it your way. Do it your own unique way, what calls to you. Don't copy, don't be someone else. You want to be the best reader. Take this traditional stuff, integrate it, but make sure it's integrated into you. Don't you become integrated in it, because then you're it, you're not you. Because then you won't be able to give an authentic, high-frequency reading. Right? When you start doing reading, you'll be able to tap into some deep stuff. Right? So normally in this, the rest of the cards will come in swords, then wands, then cups, and then the pentacles will come last normally. Here they actually have the cups coming last, the coups. But it doesn't matter, because that's just how the box is packed. So what I normally do is I break in the cards a little. You can shuffle them however you want, as many times as you want. I'm just going to start messing around with them. And eventually what I do is I just start spreading them out. So I read the cards because we're trying to create a converse, a verse with people. Right? Establish a link, a spiritual link or electrical link. Electricity and spirituality or spirit is the same thing to me. So when I say electric, I mean spirit. When I say spirit, I'm saying electric. Because for me, everything in the universe is electric. Without electricity, nothing exists. Which that electricity then, therefore, is God to me. Not the anthropomorphic God, but just the, it's a hierarchy God. It's arc and ions, right? So I'm just mixing these cards up. and I don't care what order. And just for an easy reading, we'll read them all upright or in the proper position. But eventually you want to get into the reverse, because the reverse card is reversed, same as adverse or inverse. Right? When that person's coming to me across the table and they got some issues going on with their life, that they are having adversaries. An adversary just means Shaitan or Satan in Hebrew. Right? So it just means you have an adverse. You're going against the verse, the one verse. You're splitting, diverting, triverting, quadverting, right? The verse. You're breaking yourself into multiple facets, and then therefore your life starts getting confusing because you're getting further away from your one source. And so having the card is going to help us understand if that card comes out in the verse or reverse position. If that person is in the verse or reverse or adverse or inverse. You know, sometimes the card can come upside down. It means that some of these cards have what we'll call a negative connotation on it, or portends something dark. And if that card comes upside down, that means, okay, it's not dark, it's light. Right? So sometimes we want the cards to be reversed, right? But it will also show us the adverse, what we're fighting against, right? And again, we're not here to blame, fault, shame, or none of that stuff. We're just here as a reader to identify and recognize what we're picking up, and then we're going to ask our client, does that resonate with you? Does that make sense to you? Do you hear what I'm saying? Do you see what I'm saying? Depending on how your client speaks to you is how we're going to reframe back to them. Right? If they use think, then I know they're left brain. If they say, well, I hear what you're saying, I know they're auditory. If they say, well, I feel what you're saying, right, then I know they're a feeler. So I'm going to reframe back to them that that's what I'm hearing. So it helps me understand more about the reading, right? So yeah, we're just going to mix these cards up. And I just mixed up the minor, and now I'm just going to do these because with that many cards it gets to be big, and I have a little table here. So however you want to mix these cards up, there's no certain pattern, there's no ritual. You can do sevens, you can do threes, you can split the deck 50 ways till Sunday. I don't care. Again, it's all what you feel comfortable with. Because if you're not going to be your own reader, if you're just going to be a copycat paperback psychic, then you're going to get paperback. You're going to attract paperback customers, right? They're just wanting to do superficial stuff. Right? So now that I have these together, now I'm just going to join them together. Right? And plus, you're sort of imbuing your energy, your oils, if you will, from your body, from your hand, into these cards. Right? Just like if you smoke, your smoke's going to get into the furniture or your hair, right? So you want to imbue this with that. Some people get picky and they don't want people touching their cards. But sometimes you can just say, hey, pick cards, right? Or you can spread them out and say, here, you shuffle, you do it, because then you know it's not me manipulating the cards, right? Because there's people who's real good at just pulling out the cards they want, charlatans, if you will. All right, so we got a good mix going, right? And so basically, you're just mixing cards up however you want to do. Now, for me, a lot of times, once I'm done shuffling, for whatever reason, I just like to split it up in threes and redo it like that. It's just my way. So there's different ways we can just pull a card. You can just mix the cards up until, for me, what I like to do is I mix them until the card flips. Then I start off with that card. And for me, that's the hangman. And let's see what the French version of that is. Pendu. Le pendu? I don't know. Again, it's the number 12 card. This is the only card in the deck, if you're new to tarot, this is the only card that its natural position is opposite of everyone else. And for me, this card means individuality. Right? Now, this is sort of, we can have different spreads, different readings. So I'm just showing you what I did as an example of how I pick cards sometimes. Or I can just split the deck and then just start laying out a spread. Now I'll show you a basic spread. Now let's say we'll go ahead and keep that card in the middle. Right? And all I'm going to do is bring a card underneath it, behind it, atop it, and in front of it. So this means that this card is about the person I'm reading. Not Pindu. French people don't hate me. So this is about the person I'm reading. So this person is an individual. They do things their own way. They can be the black sheep. They can buck the system. They can be a rebel. But this person is seeing life differently than most people, right? And that's who you are. And so then I can just start shuffling again until a card pops out, or one of the cards wants to stand up more than the other. Right? And I'm in no hurry. That customer's paying, if they pay for the half hour, we want to give them the most bang for their buck, or for an hour. See, that card went flying out. So I'm going to put this card under here. This is the Nine of Swords. Swords is all mental. Talk, communication, lawyers, counselors. Right? And this card represents, if you had a bunch of swords come at you, what does that do? It creates fear, anxiety, right? The moon, that's one of those swords you're stabbing, is about your dreams. The moon brings dreams and nightmares, or hopes and fears, right? And so this person is being bombarded by their mind. They're overthinking things, right? They're stressed out. That's what that card means. And this card is what the foundation of this person's going through. They're an individual, yes, but they're stressed about doing what they want because they may be getting pressure from outside, other people's thoughts, right? So part of being an individual is that, yes, it's sometimes a harder track, but if you stick to your guns, things will work out. So let's do another quick one here. Oh, popped right out. Again, we're going to read these all upright, and we're not going to look at the reverse right now. This is the Valet de Baton. So it's basically the swords, page of swords. All right, so you have the page, the prince, the queen, the king. Right? And so this is what's behind us. So because we're being ourselves, but we're stressed about that, our foundation is that we're stressed about, taking on the pressures of being different than everyone else, right? And so this page is someone brand new at their craft. Now you have 1 through 10, then you have the page, the prince, the king, and the queen, or some version of that. It can be daughter, mother, it can be all those. But this is someone who already went through 1 through 10. So they've already done a lot of work, right? They've completed a cycle in their life, and now they're starting a new cycle. This could be going from high school to college, right? That's a big jump, if you will. And this person's starting brand new. So they already got enough of the basic information, but they still need more information. That makes sense? So let's see what it is that they want to come into their life. So I take the deck again, and I just start flipping. I don't know which one to come out. And it's fun just to watch cards flip out, right? It's like, whoa, how did that happen? And after a while, if nothing pops out, then that's fine. Well, that one sort of popped out, so we'll just go with that. So this is what's hanging over our head, and this is the High Priestess. High Priestess I see comes out a lot of times. We'll put her at the top because this is not yet into the physical realm. The card that's above us is still in our thoughts, right? Because our foundations, we're having a lot of physical thoughts. This is the physical world. The swords are physical, right? It is air, right? This is also the 2. Hold on. I'm getting used to this deck too, guys, right? I want to say she's the 2 of Swords. Let me look real quick. Yeah, she's the 2 of Swords. I thought she was the High Priestess for a second. So that's why you want to utilize your book, get familiar with it, right? She looked like the High Priestess there for a second, but it is the 2 of Swords because it did have 2 swords to it. But you never know with a new deck. So she's the 2 of Swords. So what's hanging over her head is a decision, a mental decision. Right? This is a mental decision that she's having to think about the past, or what her foundation is about. She's stressed over what it is she needs to make a decision about. Right? But the Wands is about creativity. So they want to be creativity, but they're mentally having to make a decision, right, that says, okay, I'm going to be an artist, right? Or I'm going to go be a lawyer, or whatever this is, they got to make a decision. 2 is always about making a decision. So she's at the point, or he's at the point, that it's time to make the decision, right? You can keep stressing about this all you want, but you got to make a decision, right, about being creative. And so let's see what our future holds. And this is the future. This is what lies before us. Right? Or what lies ahead, however you want to phrase that. And this is Six of Cups. Six of Cups is a decent card. It's 2 threes, if you will. 3 up top, 3 down bottom. So it's a 6. It's a balanced card. Right? This is about that they are going to do something they love if they stick to it. Right? But they have to be open. They can't be so mental about this. They got to be open from the heart. This decision has to be made from the heart. That makes sense? And if you're not sure what that really means to the reading, if you're the querent asking the question, and if someone asks a question like, well, can you tell me more about that card? Great. Then we want to know more information. You can lay down how many cards you want, 1 card, 2 cards, 3 cards. I find that about 3 cards will give me a good sort of clarity on what that card means in the reading. So they're trying to make a decision, right? They want to be themselves, make a decision about something creative that they got into, but they have to, it's coming down where they have to make this decision, right? It's get off the crap or get off the pot. And if they do, they're going to be open to what's coming, but there's sort of this neutrality about this, right? There's something missing. So I'm going to find out, so I'm just going to throw out 3 cards real quick. And if you feel like it's not a good card, then throw another card down, or if it's just not making sense. So what we pulled here was, let's see, the Queen of Cups. So we're coming again here, we had the Page of Wands, right? The Page of Wands that says, hey, you know, I want to do something creative. They have to make a decision. We got the Cups, right, which is about being open and receptive, right? And then we get the Queen of Cups. And so the Queen of Cups is a mature woman, right? The dress is very flowy, so this person's a very flowy person, right? The background looks like they're into art or acting, or some sort of service, right? And then we also have the 9 of Wands, and then we had Death upside down. Now in this case, 9, anything with 9s is, and again we go through 1 through 10, and then 10 starts a cycle, because 10 is really 1.0, and so it's back to 1 again, but the 9 is the ending. So we're about done with an old creative cycle, right? In order to create this new thing that you're having to make a decision about, you have to make a new creative decision, because this old way of doing things is done, right? And the card that comes with that is Death. Now this card was upside down, so that can mean either you're not done with it yet, and there's still some stuff you need to close, have some closure on it, right? But if I was just reading this straight up, either way, whatever you have been doing is coming to an end. Now that may sound bad, but it's not. It's about rebirthing it or reinventing yourself, right? But I will read this card for this reading upside down, because it's not death yet, and that could already be that you are rebirthing yourself, right? Because we're done with the death. The opposite of death is rebirth. So you're already rebirthing yourself within some creative project. But if you want this to succeed, you're going to have to just be yourself. Right? So that was a basic reading, guys, and a basic intro and unboxing the tarot. So hopefully this has been a good basic thing. I'll probably keep this video up on my website and also have it as a free one. And that way you can begin, if you're interested in learning more about this, I'll have further classes of detailing the major and the minor arcana, getting more into spreads. And I think I got 1 or 2 already up on there. I'll put a link down below to this video, or it'll be on my site that you can click on. But hopefully you enjoyed this unboxing of a new tarot deck, getting used to the tarot deck, reading your book, right? Study the book. Don't memorize it, just get to know it. And then you can start a simple reading. And then another basic simple reading you can start with people and for yourself, right, is that you can just lay out 3 cards: the past, the present, the future. Right? So in the past, I'm learning something creative. Right? I'm the master of my own domain, or mistress, and then your cups will overflow with what it is you want. Right? So I can do a basic spread like that, but right now just get familiar with the deck, get used to using it, just playing with it, reading about it, and learning about it. And I'm going to have more videos that take us further into the future. Right? Appreciate you watching this video. Hopefully it wasn't too boring for you, but I'm taking it from someone who's never done tarot before and helping you understand that it's about making a connection, being able to communicate, and being able to energetically interpret, and then be able to refrain and help our clients. Right? I'm not giving my clients advice. I'm just taking what they're saying or what I'm reading, and then what do they want to do with that information. The reading's about them. It's not about you. Right? Until we get into the esoteric or the higher realms, and the higher realms, there's purposeful communication. There's transmissions of information, right, or formed ions that we then can translate. That then can mean, okay, on this date something's going to happen. Right? Earthquake, volcano, or stock market crash. Right? We can have those communications for a purpose. That's going to be up to you. But for now, this is just a basic intro to tarot. All right, guys. Appreciate it, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.